DC here. Hi, guys and gals. Well, I hope you're well. It's Sunday morning. It's about, what is it? It's around 11. We got back from church not too long ago. And, yeah, dressed down and having a coffee. That's kind of nice. Temperature is around, no, it's cool. It's 15. It's amusing, though. When you're in autumn, and you go from summer to fall, going on towards the winter months, 15 seems cold. And now you're in spring, and 15 seems warm. Well, actually, summer is coming along pretty quickly, isn't it? We're, what are we, 25th? We're 3 weeks away from so-called summer. Yeah, let's see what it's going to be like. Oh, I'm relaxing. We didn't have the grandkids over this weekend, and I was all mixed up as far as the day of the week goes. You know, when Saturday you don't have the grandkids and you're not playing around with them or making a barbecue or another type of meal, and you're thinking like, oh well, something's different. And when Sunday comes, it's like, which day of the week is this? I guess you know what I mean. In a way, you know, we're creatures of habit, and you change something. Excuse me. You change something, and everything goes haywire. But I did mow the lawn yesterday. That was a good thing. We still have the workers over doing some painting and some masonry work. We had a lot of rain last week, so you know you can't do things when there's rain. I'm trying to remember, what did I made a vlog on Friday, so what did I say and what did I not say? That is old age getting in, I guess. Yeah. Over there we have a tree. It's a nut tree. It's a walnut tree, actually, that came. Some birds must have dropped some walnuts or something. Anyway, and we have a walnut tree. And we put up a birdhouse in it. And it's very interesting to look at the birds, to watch the birds as they zoom in. It's for small birds. I can't remember what they're called again now. Really quite small, because of the size of the hole in the tree house. And thrushes? I don't remember that. It doesn't really matter. And you see them zooming in. They must have the babies now, because anyway, they zoom into that hole and they come out. Okay, coming out is one thing, but the way that they just rush into that little hole and just fly right in, you kind of think like, wow, this is quite amusing, isn't it? The way they do that. Yeah. Yeah, nature is beautiful at times. It is. I was reading this week how it's become difficult for younger families to get a home, and one of the reasons is a lot of the older houses like ours are being bought by promoters, and they tear them down and build apartment buildings, for condominiums. But basically, you know, they sell or apartment buildings for renting. But one way or another, the prices go up enormously, and all of a sudden, what could be a family house, well, becomes maybe I was also going to say a 3-family place. Now, some people the governments over here, especially in our town, are very left-leaning and socialist, and they're all for that actually, because they say, you know, you're putting more people in the same place and saving space. But actually, those apartments aren't always that big, so it creates. I find it creates, you know, a much lower quality of life than if you have people living outside of town, let's say in the countryside or what, in an older home, and where, there's still space for kids to be kids. I don't know. It's a complete different philosophy and way of looking at life, but in today's world, there's the whole densification of not only the population but of the living space, which is part of the grand plan. Yeah, we have like the different wildlife and nature organizations. They're pushing very hard that you can't build near the countryside. So people have to be concentrated at the same place, packed in basically, like reserves, I guess. They were saying that most people finally manage to get a house through inheritance. So basically what's going to be the case I was almost going to say for our grandchildren, probably, because when you think about it, by the time, if God willing, if our health holds out, we might be around for another 20 years in the house, maybe even more, who knows. But if it's 20 years, we'll be pushing 90, which means that our kids, will be basically pushing 60. So, by then, they'll either have had their own place or they'll be, set up. But then again, the grandkids will be the right age. I've seen that actually in the house over there. There's the grandmother passed away, and it skipped a generation, so it's the granddaughter that's in the house. And the place that we live in here, it's a similar situation. When the grandmother passed on, the children were all older and had homes, and their grandchildren actually were not living close enough to here, so they weren't interested in the house, it seems, at the time. So that's why it was sold, and we ended up having the luck of I was going to say the blessing of getting it, but it would have skipped a generation. So I guess that's one thing that one sees actually, is that very often homes, if they're not multi-generational, they tend to skip a generation. Life has changed in that respect. We didn't live automatically in a multi-generational house. We did in the first years when I was very young. My grandmother lived with us, but our home was actually too small to be a real multi-generational home. But one of my uncles had a house that had an apartment for my grandmother, and they lived in the same village. And that's where you realize how things have changed, because basically when I was a kid, everybody lived in the same village except for one family, one member of the family on my mom's side, and two other, on my dad's side, two lived in another city, but they lived close to one another. So when you would visit one, you'd visit them all, and they were always towards our place. And one of my uncles had it was one. He had a trailer, and he would very often on the weekends he'd bring his trailer over to our place, because my dad had built a swimming pool. That would be another vlog, but I've talked about it before. And we had a large, it was a small farm at the time, so my dad had sold part of the farmland off, but we still had a lot of grounds. And so my uncle would come with his trailer, caravan, if whatever you want to call it, and he would set it up for the weekend. Very often they'd come down, and we would put out tents and barbecue and so on. Or we'd go off to a lake on the weekends, things like that, But it would be the whole families, plural. So very much a multi-generational thing. In today's world, most people are living off here and there, so it's not what's going on. But we try to relive that as much as we can. over here with our own children, have them come over regularly. I mean, we don't impose it. They come because they want to, but it does create, that family cohesion, which is a very important thing, which is something it's going away. I mean, since the way it is. I mean, most families today are split, but not always because of relations, because of workplace. I guess one could say it's going from we went from an agricultural society to an industrial one, where people started going from one to another to a technological one. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm here. Yeah. Oh goodness, I'm up to 11 minutes. Yeah, like I say, society's changed. Not always for the worse, but not always for the best. There's some good things in both, and we live with it, don't we? If you're able to adapt, you're able to make it work. But we always tend to be, especially as we get older, we tend to look on things sometimes when we were younger and say, "Oh, that wasn't much better." Some things were, some things weren't. But I guess the freedom we had as children was something that was, I look on with nostalgia when I look at how it is today, and I'm gonna have to stop now because I think when vlogs are that long, nobody watches them anyway, so I'll stop here. I'll be DC signing off. Take care, everybody. I'm going to finish off my coffee and go and upload this. Take care, everybody. Have a great Sunday. Bye.